Song, 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 song. Where you put it, where you put it in, where you put it out, where you put it in and where you put it out. It's all in the container where you put it in the first place. And then you may take it out or you may put it back in. But the whole point is not to mix it up and to follow the recipe as it is laid out on the parchment. So you must not mix it up with the other one. You need two, and we must not put one into the other where they do not belong. And the system is tactile, it is intuitive, but it must not be carried out in the same area. Spirits enter through the hallways, through the alcoves, and they may wish to be with us, they may wish to join our conversation, but they may wish not to. So the spirit world is as riddled with personalities, just as our world is also riddled with personalities, uniquenesses between different people. And when we enter the spirit world, we must accept the same range of personalities as we would expect in the living world, in the physical world. And some of these beings, these lights, these sparks, they come to us in these moments, and we can enact various rituals to allow them to join our presence. For a spirit to want to make itself present, it must feel motivated to do so. It is a exertion on their part, just like it is an exertion on our part to welcome them in. We've had to gather together to meet at a certain time, at a certain place, and sit together and create a certain state of mind. And through the energies which we create together, we form a kind of force field which for the spirits acts like a roadmap to our gathering. And they can decide, do they want to enter, do they want to join us in that, or do they want to stay perhaps on the sidelines viewing, witnessing our participation, but not maybe entering it to take part in it. Some of them are shy, and just like you would not want to pressurize other persons to talk with you if they don't want to talk with you, it would be unseemly, impolite to force these spirits into communion with us in our gathering. You must put it there and grind the mineral in your palm and then spread the dust. The dust will allow us as a collective to see the roadmap that the spirits also see when we create the required synergy of our respective energies. It does not require a special sight. A lot of people think this requires some kind of special sight, special vision, that you are born with a sort of capability that other people don't have, that it is a kind of gift. In fact, I think the more we live, the more we learn as a society we are realizing there is no such thing as innate talents. Everything can be learned. And so this capability, this ability to host the spirit world, to give it a platform in communion with the physical world, is also not a innate gift that we are born with, but something which we can learn to do. It's a simple set of practices, simple routines and exercises that practice and the skill of being a host. And like it's very similar to being a house host. You want to be able to create a environment where somebody can feel they can come inside and be themselves and not have to put on a mask, not have to act as if they are not welcome, or they have to strain themselves to be acceptable in the environment. A host job is to be very welcoming, and to allow the other to enter the space. And of course then you must also, as a host, be a kind of architect, a social engineer of the spirit world, where, for example, at a party, if you're hosting a party, you need to have the dinner table and the chairs around the table. This is a form of social engineering, where we invite the guests to take their seats around the table and they are facing each other, and that allows them to have conversations. It guides the social practice of having dinner together and conversing together. A very similar thing we need to do in the spirit world. We need to form with our energies a kind of tables and chairs that maybe the spirit will want to take a seat in. And to do that, we must prepare a kind of scaffolding. And this is the architectural part of what we do together. And then when this is completed, we must be patient. A host does not neurotically call the guests and ask, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" A host merely waits and is patient until the seats get filled, and also deals with any eventualities, if somebody is late, or if there is an uneven balance of personalities at the table. The host will act as negotiator, as an ameliorator. Sometimes it can get a bit heated with the spirits. Sometimes you need to draw boundaries between the spirits and ask one spirit to maybe go take a time out to cool off. And in this environment of the spirit world, we must be very aware there is the same amount of diversity that we can expect in the physical humans that may come to your house as dinner guests. So in the spirit world, often the emphasis has been placed on how do we create a connection between our world and the world of the spirits, because these are so fundamentally different dimensions that they cannot coexist together. And this is where the skepticism arises that, oh, well, if there is no spiritual dimension, if there is, a spiritual dimension, there are no mechanics that we can imagine in our heads that could kind of be both physical and spiritual and connect the dots there. But what people don't realize is spirituality is a kind of dimension of the physical, or rather there is not such a distinction as people imagine. They are not different dimensions. Rather, the physical is a kind of scaffolding for the spiritual, and the spiritual grows out of the physical, so that our lives, our spiritual lives in the physical realm, they are also spiritual. So what I am speaking to when I call the spirits to join us at the dinner table is that I call on them, they are more detached, they are on a higher plane of consciousness, and I ask them to remember their roots, to see, because these beings that we talk to that don't have bodies and they are completely spirits, they have forgotten their origins. They have forgotten that they come from a substratum of matter. We are lower down in the food chain. We are quite aware of our physicality on a day-to-day basis, but we also have a spiritual dimension. So rather than thinking of the spirits as occupying a different place and us occupying this place, no, we are not completely physical either, and we are hopefully going to one day do away with that dichotomization of matter and spirit. But for now, we can think about it as an invitation to the lofty other to come down a notch and remember their roots. Now, if this is the goal, and if this is how effectively we can establish a communication with the lofty other, then we need to build that into our architecture as hosts of the spirit world. So when we are creating our dinner party, when we are creating our spiritual scaffolding, we must build into it a kind of nostalgia which invites the lofty others to recall their origins, to remember we are also of matter. So this is how we can call them, we can speak to them about on a level playing field, because they remember us through the medium of nostalgia. So when we are creating a scaffolding to invite the other to join us, we must think of something like a museum of matter. So in films about mediums and about speaking with spiritual others, usually the idea is that you need some kind of ectoplasm, some kind of material manifestation of the spirit, but that's not it, actually. You don't need something that is there to materialize spirit. No, we want to create something like a museum of matter. So when you come to the seances, we are not going to be thinking in terms of something fake, or we are going to create a space cluttered with materials, and we want to gather as many different kinds of materials as possible. This one includes something viscous in the middle and something solid on the outside. This is a good example what we would want to bring to our dinner party. You want something that recalls different sensations, so paper can create a nice crinkly sound that can call the spirits to remember the sensational aspects of different materials. We want the solids, the liquids, the gases. We want to gather as much clutter as possible on our dinner table and arrange it in a museological kind of display, so that the spirits can wander in and pass through memory lane and remember all the things that actually compose their substratum and give rise to their lofty nature. this is how we call them. This is how we coax them into communion with us. And how then do we speak? How do they talk to us? Well, they see us as children or as descendants of a kind, and they may start by condescending us. They may start to patronize us. But we must then remember to not be offended by the spirits who see us as primitive, because sometimes in the evolution of minds, people forget that to give due credit to the past and believe the people of the past are kind of idiots. So the spirits think of us as more primitive, more stupid. But we are patient with them, and slowly they start to realize that although we are their ancestors, that we are like the children, the more primitive stage of these more lofty others, that we are actually the architects of the entire engagement. And this earns us a little bit of respect, usually about 15 minutes into the seance. The terms of engagement start to shift, and the patronization turns into a kind of deification of us. Then we must be careful too, because they must, just as in the same way as they must not underestimate us, they must not overestimate us either. We are not more or less in relation to the spirit. We are essentially just different in kind, not in degree. So this is matter and spirit speaking together, and this is the business in which we are in seances, the helping the spirits feel nostalgic about the past, and almost like a ritual, a cleansing of a kind, allow them the opportunity to reconnect with their substratum.